This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
At Sierra, you'll always find apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. But right now, it's clearance time, so you can save even more on everything you need to get active and outside. Visit your local Sierra store today.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast. My name's Dan Kennett, and we don't have the doc this week. He is on his way back. I think he's literally at Gatwick Airport now, on the way back to Mauritius. So, but we did go to this game, the Man United game, Liverpool 2, Man United 2, before he left the UK. But yeah, he will be back on the pod. Don't we worry, you lovely people. He will be back next week, all things being equal. But the good news is, I do have the rest of the crew with me to go through this game. First of all, the boy wonder from the Times of London, sports analyst, I believe, not sports writer. Is that right, Hamzah?
I don't know. They've got different titles, Dan. I was called football reporter by my old boss. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, football reporter at the Times. Anyway, Hamzah, welcome along. And where were you this weekend?
I didn't do a match on the weekend, but I did Wolves v Forest yesterday, and I've got Forest again on Saturday. So I'll have a good look at Forest before we play them.
Have you got Forest when we play them?
No, I haven't. Actually, I'm not sure who is doing that match. I imagine
I bet it was Alisson Rudd.
It'll probably be Paul, given Nottingham's not too far from Liverpool. So I think he'll probably do the match report.
Oh, okay. Okay. And thoughts on our most likely title rivals? Were they all different at +9?
I don't think they are title rivals, but what they are is very good at what they're good at. So they're fantastic at sort of sitting back, breaking on the counter, and especially when they've got that game state advantage, they're really good at that. There weren't actually moments in yesterday's match where Wolves unpicked them, and that will be a problem for the future. And there are wider questions of how they can play when expected to dominate possession. But against us, that's not going to be the case. So this probably should suit them Tuesday night under the lights.
Yeah, it can be a tough game. Very tough game. Right, and we do have Mr. Simon Brundage. Good evening, Si.
Hey, how are you, boys?
I
was happy last one.
Did you? Question for everybody who wants to know, Si, is when the snow hit the UK, did you still go running at 6 a.m?
I was out every day. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you still wear shorts when it's at 6 a.m? and it's snowstorm?
I gave up wearing shorts. I'm too old.
Okay. All right. Okay. PB
at what?
Whatever your distance is, your regular distance is. I don't know. I just have visions of you training in the snow like Rocky or something.
My 10K PB is like 39 something.
Okay. Brilliant stuff. Anyway, we are here to talk about Liverpool 2, Man United 2. Definitely 2 points dropped by the Mighty Reds. Lots of stories around this game, but we'll come on to some of those. But we are definitely going to focus first and foremost, as we always do, on the on the lineups for both teams. So first of all, Si, the Liverpool lineup, big news. Ibrahim and Konate straight back in.
That's fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Connor on the bench.
Yeah, so all our boys were back, basically. We got Joe Gomez, and the other big news of the day was that Zobo was ill. And I actually think we need to discuss that when we get into the game.
Definitely.
But apart from those two, it's 2 injuries at this point.
Amazing.
Which is remarkable. Yeah, so that's apart from that, I think we're starting to see a first team show up.
So we've had questions in the chat, in the Discord chat, Si, about Ibu, particularly the fact that he wears strapping. Now, we know that you think strapping is nothing, it's just a mental thing for the players. What can you talk about why players wear them and what difference it makes?
Zero difference, and there's lots of signs. I could post in Discord if people would like. There's articles, the actual quality research on K-tape. It gives some kind of neuromuscular or proprioceptive feedback. So the area of your body, it has like a dull reminder that there's stuff going on. So maybe the brain will help protect it a little bit through like firing contractile tissue around there a little bit earlier, or making you a little bit less likely to do something which will cause a repeat of the injury. But in my experience, people that are returning from injury are terrified of that occurring anyway. So I'm not quite sure what it does. K-tape doesn't increase stability of the knee at all. But
Bart said any effect wears off after 15 minutes anyway, maximum.
Yeah. So if there was any effect of K-tape, the stiffness has gone within. I think he's being generous in 15 minutes. I think it's gone within 5, but it definitely won't last a match.
Yeah,
and the stiffness doesn't actually play a role, but it just tells everybody he's injured.
Yeah. And how did he look visibly to you in terms of his movements and
Yeah, fine. To be fair, I think second half he started to turn a little bit slower, and he looked a little bit less. I think the world would say leggy. He looked a little bit less twitchy from my perspective. So a little bit less responsive, slightly slower to react, and not quite as quick. He was taking advantage of the moments in the game where United were wasting a bit of time to get an extra breath in.
Yeah. We've seen that. But is that just going to be? He's lost some of his cardio fitness because of using it for a while. Yeah.
Of course, you have to just have me training. So people, the world will think it's cardiovascular. It's not, but it doesn't matter. He has lost his ability to sustain effort for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you, based on what you saw and how he was moving around, so what do you think the usage of him will be over the next period? Do you think it will be one game a week? Do you think it will be back-to-back games? What's your hunch?
I'll be staggered if he plays tomorrow. My feeling is he'll probably play Saturday, which seems such a waste to me. But you've got to utilize his minutes. You've got to be playing him so he can build up the capacity to repeat again. But it might be they might give him 45 against Accrington and then prepare him for a full game against Forest. Yeah.
Okay. So if people shit the bed about Ibu starting against Accrington, that's just the reason why. It's just to try and build him up.
Yeah. You have to, and because we have so many games, there's no opportunity to have game speed training.
Yeah.
I think, in all honesty, I think that's being Harvey's problem. I pointed this out. I literally have a fatigue index pod all about this subject from, I don't know, when do we do it? November, something like that, about tactical periodization and the consequences for players returning from injury. And this is one of them. It's really hard for them to get up to speed. And the way it's never talked about, but the way the Reserve League was removed like 15 years ago, the under 23, under 21, 23s, whatever the league is called. I think it's 23.
Premier League 2, isn't it?
Premier League 2. They just don't play many games.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, there's your weekly dose of sports science insights, people, you lovely people. The other big thing, obviously, you mentioned Dom ill, so Jones plays in the most advanced of the midfield roles. Is we went again with the Diaz nominally a centre forward. Yet again, the data shows us we're basically playing with two left wingers, and the Diaz and Cody are in exactly the same positions. We've seen it work very well. In other games until now, maybe 4 or 5 games side where it's worked very well. What do you think the rationale was for the false 9? What was your reading of it?
My reading is that United generally tend to be easy to play through the middle. I don't think particularly if you look at the last game when they were whipped, they were cut apart down the middle. And so you're hoping to build through Diaz dropping off and creating space for runners beyond him. It's just that with 3 at the back, and then with 3 giants the 2 giants and the really angry dwarf fella. It's a different story when they've got Ugarte for like he's a proper 6, a good. He wants to, split you in half, and but he also sees space, and he is a little bit. He's got 30% of the sonar detector device that Fab used to have. And so, it's a much harder challenge for that. But I understand how they were going to play Maguire, and Maguire's much more comfortable against a centre forward that's standing on his toes. Even though I'm backing Darwin against him, he's shit.
He's shit. He really is shit.
But so the idea is to have Diaz drop off. The last home game, if you remember, we had some brilliant rotations from doing that, but they weren't following him out because Ugarte in front of him.
Do you think that's what maybe United got right? They didn't go with Diaz. They just stayed in their little position though, rather than just one of them going with him. So
maybe if we're going to go into much of this, I think perhaps it'll be interesting to see Hamzah's take, but I don't think it was structural. I think we got through them 3 times early in the game, and if any of those would have gone in, like no one's talking about any of this.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. Although I did think that Diaz was quite quiet in this match, and so was Cody, apart from a goal. Hamzah, before we come to see United, what was your thoughts on the false 9 selection?
I saw it slightly differently. I thought that, and like Si's already alluded to this, Szoboszlai. I thought Szoboszlai would have started down the middle.
Yes.
And I think that would have made a difference in terms of how we interacted with that space. So the idea, I think, was that Diaz would play 9, maybe peel off to the left a bit and sometimes change, but ideally to drag one of their centre-backs out with the intention of immediately exposing that space with Szoboszlai's direct running in behind. To literally synchronize a run. So one goes out, one goes in straight away. And I think that was the idea. And we played Jones there instead. And Jones wasn't as involved as we would have hoped for a number of reasons, I guess. And also that's a particular skill that Szoboszlai's better at in terms of just breaking into the box, attacking that space. So I think the idea would have actually been to use Szoboszlai there, and I think that would have affected Diaz's involvement and made us a bit punchier in the final third, and better at exposing that space, because when we were pulling players out, sometimes it would be Martinez that would jump, sometimes Delict. We weren't attacking that space that they would vacate. And of course, the one reason for that compared to the Newcastle match is because the back line was a bit different. And I guess the Wolves match as well, as in when United played Wolves, it was just Yoro that was jumping, and the other players in the back line weren't. Martinez in particular, which was a bit weird. So yeah, there's a bit of surprise there in that they actually did what they were meant to do, but also I think our capacity to exploit that was because Szoboszlai wasn't there.
Yeah, and I listen to I do listen to the Times of London football podcast, the game most times. The one after the Man United Newcastle was particularly fun. Obviously, Amorim got a huge amount of criticism for that performance, didn't he? And there was significant media pressure, I would say, Hamzah, on him to basically show a reaction to that, because it was a feeble, embarrassing performance for a club of Man United stature at home to Newcastle. What do you think? He had a whole week to do something. What was your view on what he did and how he did it?
Well, first of all, was the immediate improvement in the players just by not having Eriksen, Casemiro in midfield. They can't cover space. So you improve.
Who knew? Centre midfield, age 70, whatever. Yeah.
So you're naturally going to get an improvement there. In the match against Newcastle, I actually can't remember who was playing left attacking midfield, but it wasn't Bruno Fernandes because he was suspended because he picked up a red card against Wolves. Immediately,
he got taken off.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's why I don't remember. So immediately in three key positions, you've got the best player returning. You've got Ugarte, who's a fantastic ball winner. I'm not quite sold on his ability to pass the ball forwards, but a fantastic ball winner. And then Mainu, who can just run more. And I'm not sure what he will develop into in terms of a midfielder. I'm not sure if he's better forward or deeper, but whatever he is, he's better than Eriksen and Casemiro in that he can run and link play.
Very tigerish, actually, I thought. Helped anyone at Winston. Yeah.
Yeah,
so he's a bit of a pest, and I think both of them are quite good at covering small areas where the system doesn't leave you exposed to defend big areas. I think both of those players are going to do very, very well. Yeah,
and they made sure that those areas were smaller as well, because instead of being quite clearly a 3-4-2-1 when they're out of possession, it was just quite clearly a 3 or a 5, 4-1. So Bruno and
Ahmad
got it done.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you've had that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
In very quickly and supported the centre midfielders a lot better. I think that structural difference was just a bit better. And when you're at home, you're meant to attack a bit more. The spacing against Newcastle was horrendous, really. They adjusted that spacing to make sure they wouldn't get exposed as much. And to be honest, there's sort of echoes of the 7-0 defeat a few years ago, as in when they lost 7-0, they returned to Anfield and said, all right, we're not going to get battered again. And I think in a similar vein here, they lost 3 on the bounce. And they just sort of made sure, okay, well, first of all, we're not going to get battered here. we're going to grind out and defend properly and show some sort of pride. And I think that was a key motivational factor, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Amorim's accused of being a bit, the old Einstein quote about doing the same thing and expecting different results. But he definitely did some things which were new, right, for this game. And do you think it's a coincidence that is the first time he's had actually a whole week to actually spend some time on the coaching ground with his players?
Yeah. You don't get much time to work with the players. This is his, I think he's had 4 days until this week in total, where he's had it's not been a recovery day. He's actually been able to do tactical work.
Matches. Yeah, it's just been matches.
So yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, we'll talk about the Fernandes thing more when we get into the game. So I'm just going to give you the match summary, because whilst we may seem a little bit negative because it's 2 points dropped in this match, and be under no illusions that the stats line in this match and stats back is pretty strong. Not the strongest we've had by the season by any means. So even if the performance was not that as good as it has been, the output of that performance was still pretty strong, and it was still a comfortable home win. Barts' Monte Carlo gives us a 78% chance of a Liverpool win based on the chances in the match. 8% Man United and 14% draw, and the most likely score was an equal 2-1 Liverpool and a 3-1 Liverpool. The biggest chance of a Man United win, there wasn't one. I think it was a 1% chance of a 1-0, and a 1% chance of a 3% chance of a 2-1 Man United, and that was it. So yes. In terms of the stats, Barts has got it as 53-47 to us in the possession. He actually has more on-ball time for United, which is pretty remarkable, actually. I'll have to dig into that and ask him how he actually calculates that on-ball time metric, but he does do it through the events, that's for sure. Penalty box touches 34-31. Now, Si, that's got to be rare, have both teams get over 30 touches in the box. That has to be rare.
It is. Yeah. This season, we have. It's the first time we've played. The 31 is only against Brighton in the Caribou. We had more, and weirdly, actually, if I take the Caribou out, it's the most we've conceded touches in the box this season, because we have 2 in Caribou, and. Apart from that, it's a high. That's a lie. We had the first game of the season, 46 against Ipswich. But apart from that, it's very rare.
And to be honest, seeing that number doesn't actually surprise me that much, because in the first half, I was tearing my hair out watching the game with Barts, because the number of times we failed to clear our lines from a set piece, and United had second, third, fourth phase of balls into our box, just creating mayhem because we couldn't clear our lines properly. It was absolutely maddening. But there you go. And that did continue into the second half, and we eventually cost us.
Point out as a stat show, right, that we played Man United game 3 of the season and we won 3-0, and we but in the build to this, eulogised how brilliant we were. And we had, take the pen out, we had 2.1 XG, and in this game we'd had 2.1 XG. And we conceded 0. We conceded 1.5 XG, and in this game 1.6.
1.1 in this game, mate.
1. Yeah. So it depends on who's XG using. Yeah. So I'm using aggregate.
I think the difference is that the one at their place, they had all their chances when we were 3-0 up.
Or if I frame this differently, we scored our early chances.
Yes, correct, absolutely correct.
So people are going, I'm not saying you're wrong, but people were very aggressive about Amorim on Wednesday, saying how terrible he was, and then how much better he was, and he had this big influence on Sunday. And I just don't think he did. I don't think they did anything particularly different. The biggest difference is that they had two better players, basically, Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes. compared to Wednesday. But the big difference was for them was that we missed our chances. It was absolutely pissing it down. What was the weather like? You were there.
Shocking. It was shocking. It took us an hour and 10 minutes to walk 2 miles because it was so slushy and snowy. It was horrendous.
It's fact on the pitch. What happens? It causes a little bit of chaos, just by the nature of it existing.
It was near freezing, and it was pissing down with rain. The whole match. Yeah, it was shocking.
Chaos is going to favour the worst team.
Yeah, I agree. It's a leveler. But yeah, conditions were definitely a leveler.
So then it becomes a game about both making the fewest mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen, but working the hardest.
Yeah. You're going to say whoever wants it more, Were you going to say that?
Absolutely not. It's absolute garbage.
You could go on Hamzah's of the pod if you made that observation. They wanted it more.
Jesus. It's about being smart about when you're going to run.
Yeah. Sure. Let me just finish off the stats line anyway. So 15 shots in the box to 11, 4 big chances to 3. We had 2.8 on XG to their 1.06. Expected goals on target, we were 1.9. They were just 0.4, and our EPV conversion was 167%, and United's was 61. But yeah, United ended up having 9 corners, but it felt like 15 because of the number of ones that came back in the box. But yeah, so that's the stats pack. And we're going to start with that first half, Hamzah. And so United didn't really have much going on for the first 20 minutes of this game. They were extremely deep. And how did you see that opening passage of the game and what we were trying to do, particularly to try and go on the front foot?
I think, again, like the Fulham match, this was a match in which, in the first few minutes, there's a break in play that just stifled momentum.
Mainly, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mainly went down, and immediately, when you've got, if the crowd is up and the players are up for it, and it's a bit cold, if you have a pause in the match, it just saps that energy out. It's hard to gain that momentum back, and it's annoying. For example, when you've scored a goal, you have a lengthy VAR check, that sort of stuff. It disrupts the flow. And when you're a visiting team, ideally, this is the sort of thing, as in, you don't want a player to be injured.
Yeah.
But it helps that you can break up the rhythm of the game through stoppages. Sometimes just an injury in the second minute, sometimes when the ball goes out, that sort of stuff. So where possible as well, United were looking to capitalise on breaks in play to disrupt the flow. And I think that may actually explain why Barts has United with a better ball in play time, is when they had the ball, when they had possession, for example. Let's say they won a corner, corner, a free kick, a goal kick. There would just be a lengthy delay in terms of seconds before they'd actually take it. So maybe that explains that, I guess. I think that meant reading what Liverpool were trying to do and United were trying to do in the first 5 minutes was like a redundant exercise you just couldn't see because there wasn't any football being played. Similar to the Fulham match, but not to as big an extent, because I think that one had like 100 passes inside the first 20 minutes. This was a bit more developed, obviously. I think our first shot on goal was in the 13th minute when Trent was attacking, and then Diaz, I think, got the rebound. So for the first few minutes, it was a bit skittish, broken down, underdeveloped. We saw that.
Can I ask one really trivial thing, right? But it really annoyed me, right? We talk about the Mainoo injury. What about when he was allowed back onto the pitch? Because he came straight from the blind side and nicked the ball off Trent, and he was allowed to do it. Is that even allowed? What happened there? Because I missed that bit in the ground.
You're right about that. That is what happened. But I don't know the rules on whether that's allowed.
Did the referee just wave him back on and then he just blindsided somebody?
I think that's about
size nodding.
You rest crashing.
Yeah. Wow.
Go on, Fred.
I just quickly, the rules of the game are that treatment can't take place on the pitch unless there is a critical injury. So on the pitch, they have to wave on the medical staff, and the medical staff can only assess on the pitch, and the player has to go off for any treatment. And that doesn't happen, and it didn't happen in this. They didn't spend 2 minutes assessing him. He was just faking injury for 2 minutes. He did get a little bit of a nick on the head, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. There was no force. He didn't have a painful head injury. and then he gets cheated, who's allowed straight back on the pitch. It's a referee's problem.
Yeah, and then he won the ball off the blind side in Trent. That was shocking. Anyway, Si, I think one thing that amazed me in this period was just how focused the game was in 1/3 of the pitch vertically. It was this strip on the right wing and the right half space all the way up. United basically had both midfielders operating in this strip. We had Gravenberch in there as well at times, and Jones at times, Trent and Salah. And is that it? Why did it become so biased to that side of the pitch? What was your reading of it?
The best players are that side for a start, but Man United play down their left. They typically build down their left. It's their hottest strategies where they go. I expected more. To be fair, Slots talked about long balls. I expected more diagonal long balls that way, but there were only 3 in the first 20 minutes. And they had 136 passes. We had 131 up to 18th minute, which was, we had a couple of really big chances, I think. So the ball, their strategy was, I think, amplified to overload Trent, and do you know what? In all honesty, if I was going to set up looking at our team, I would want to try out Konate. I would want to get runners down either side of him and see how
Test his knee.
Exactly how he can stand up to him. But also, if you're taking a pragmatic look at the whole game, he has not been training. I want him turning around a dozen times and having to sprint 10 yards because I know that will create a gap in the second half. So people don't really think about the consequence, the physiological consequences, but some smart coaches do.
Yeah.
That will be it. But they definitely overloaded down that side, and we were just making passes down that side to try to connect and get in through Mo. And Curtis came over that side as what Grav slotted over. And there, Curtis was playing primarily that side as well. So we, instead of like little triangles, we got like a big rhombus over there. And it was limiting. One of the things that was really frustrating with me is that I don't think they were pressing very well. And they were going man for man and leaving Curtis. And he wasn't making quick enough angles to receive possession. So it ended up funneling towards Trent again and again and again. And
so you will say that the opposition can choose to leave one player free and build up, yeah?
Yeah.
So what do you think the reason was that they chose Curtis?
He's the least threat.
Okay. Simple as that.
Yeah, he is in deep possession. I don't think he's the least threat when he's around our box. He's not a deep when he's around their box, but he doesn't create anything. He's not going to pick a pass through the line.
No. Yeah, he's a recycler more, isn't he? And runner. Yeah.
You know that if they actually get him the ball, he's just going to hold it and then hold it, and then we might build from that if we can get players past him. So it's a legitimate, as long as he's making fast enough movements to create enough of an angle to get the ball past, because they were blocking passing lanes rather than deliberate passing.
Do you think that was a smart choice from them in that way, in that respect? Yeah.
It will be a smart choice, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw it, but I posted it in the group. The Stats Bomb passing numbers, because they do passes under pressure. Trent made 13 passes under pressure in this match, completed 10, and the next most for any Liverpool player was 7. That tells you something about what United were doing there as well. They were just, because he'd just come off the back of a pretty historic match at West Ham side. We said he's the first time ever the top passing combination hasn't just been one centre back to the other centre back. It was Trent and Low. Yeah. So they clearly found a way of putting him under pressure, so not giving him the time on the ball.
I don't think it was the time of the ball. It was they were blocking his angles of pass out. So he got a couple off diagonals in behind, and he tried a couple, and he ended up forcing passes. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if Hamzah remembers it, but you will remember it for sure. That Stevie has this wonderful reputation of the greatest player, and blah 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 blah. Yeah. And these great moments. Stevie used to sulk if the game wasn't going his way in the first 5 minutes. He visibly sulked, and in some incarnations of our team, they would all sulk with him. As that team improved, they would, Chabby would pick him up, or even Dirk Kuyt would pick him up. But he would definitely go through that. And I wonder if, I think sulk is probably the wrong word for Trent in this situation. I feel like he lost patience really quickly.
Yeah, I think I don't know him, obviously, but I think he's more likely to get irritated by that than sulk about it. He's not going to feel sorry about it. He's going to get angry rather than sorry.
Yeah, and so he was forcing passes. That's it, and it's the antithesis of Slot's methodology.
Absolutely. He was 3 out of 13 on long balls, which is bad. And just can we just do the whole the internet bashing Trent for losing possession 25 times, and what a load of shit that is, Trent. Yeah, I mean, right. If you don't know that Trent Alexander-Arnold loses the ball at least 20 times every match, sometimes 30, 35. We've probably even had a 40 before now, haven't we, Si?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, right, if you're going to bash Trent for his performance, right, we're trying to use stats, one thing you cannot do is losing possession, because it happens every fucking game, right? And we won a Champions League final against Tottenham, and he had a 29% pass completion. So, just go figure that. Anyway, that's rant over. Sorry, Si.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.